No pencil? British Council pencil or any other pencil? Just make sure you have a pencil. There is a reason for it, and it's not for writing. If you don't have one, try and borrow one from somebody else and say, I'm very sorry, I won't be returning it. You could return it, but it may not. I won't say anything. So look, after all of that, what you get is you get a short guy, a bit fat. You agree? I'm not going to go on unless you agree. Oh, thank you. So she thinks I'm fat, and I didn't know what to prepare because I didn't know who the audience was. So just for quickly, how many of you are teachers? Sorry, you go. Yes. How many of you are teachers? No. How many of you are teachers? Yes. How many of you are teachers? How many of you are teachers? How many of you are not teachers? How many of you are teachers? How many of you are not teachers? Fantastic. How many of you are in business? I love to see the fundamental confidence of business, don't you? How many of you are teachers? Has anyone here remembered their school days? Teachers, not for you. You should remember, because that might have been today. So, can anybody remember their school days? Yeah. Were they good? Okay, so look, what I have done. Actually, I'm going to ask a question. How many of you have been to a presentation by someone? How many of you have been to a presentation and somebody's clearly prepared something and they've worked on it very hard and then they deliver it and it doesn't mean much? Does it ever happen? You know, and it goes, no, you're a teacher. Don't talk about yourself, for heaven's sake. There is something. I'm sorry. I do this. I'm English. Did anybody see the Olympics opening ceremony? Yes. Did anybody understand it? So I come from that country, okay? So we enjoy doing things like this. What I have done is I brought. So occasionally you go to a presentation, and by the way, am I talking too loud? No. Am I talking not loud enough? Am I talking too fast? No. You sure? Yes. There is one thing which I'd like you to do, because what I have brought is I brought quite a lot of material with me. We're going to just go and dive in and out of bits. So rather than giving a presentation and at the end of it go, thank you, and you don't know if you're applauding because thank God it's over. Has anyone ever been to a presentation and somebody goes, hi, have you ever done one of those? And you look at your watch and you go, my God, my watch has stopped. Have you ever done that? And you go, whoa, it says 2 minutes. It can't just be 2 minutes. I can't have another 58 minutes of this. So if that's ever happened to you, have you ever found yourself thinking, this is a bit boring? Has anybody ever done that? And if you think this is a bit boring, do you ever say, excuse me, this is boring? Have you ever done that? Some of you have you thought about it? Have you sometimes said to your friend, this is boring? Do you agree? Have you ever said, I'm going to signify my boredom by going to sleep? So I'd like to make sure that this doesn't happen. So look, if I'm boring, would you mind telling me? Because then we can look at something else. Is that okay? Now, I don't know. I've been told, be careful of Lithuanian audiences. They're very, very intellectual. And that means they may not say very much, but they're absorbing it. So let's see if we can move to a different type of category. If I'm boring, I'd like you to tell me. I'd like to rehearse this. Is this okay? So what I'd like to do, I'm not going to go over here because you think I'm very fat. Although I think you might be rearranging that. So I'd like you to say, Marcus. Marcus. You're boring. You're boring. Go away. Okay, so let's do it. Okay, on the count of 3. Count of 3 is difficult, isn't it? Because is it 3, 2, 1 or 1, 2, 3? Do you go on 3? Do you go on the 2? Nearly the 3? So let's go. I go 3, 2, 1. Then we leave a gap. Let's start. All right. So it's 3, 2, 1 gap. Start. And it's just Marcus. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Yeah.
Marcus, you're boring. No way.
I think you can do better than that. Put a bit of soul into it. 3, 2,
Marcus, you're boring. No way.
okay, so if you say that, and I will. Or you can ask me to do something else. So I'll just show you roughly what I've got with me. Let's see. I need to identify the humour levels. I have prepared a little bit, but it's not very good. So I thought I'll just go through some of this. Has anybody ever found that you know you've got some material, you just don't know where it is? Does that happen? Has anybody found you've got the same file called 23 different names in 18 different locations on 3 computers? So that's usually me. So I do have some stuff. Just imagine if you could control a drop of water. Just imagine you had a tap and you could open and close it and a little drop would come out. Imagine if you could open it for a bit longer so a longer drop comes out, so it becomes a line. Can you imagine that? And imagine you had a lot of them in a line. Then you might be able to do water at a Sako railway station. This is just water. Isn't that cool? Imagine if you could play the accordion as well as this person. So, you know, there are so many opportunities available. Have you seen the girl Pixie T? She's a Chinese girl. She makes music. Every so often she publishes music, and she published some music about 5 years ago, and people said, you really need to do a video to go with the music. So about 1.5 years ago, she released something called I Don't Care. It's in Chinese, and she made it all on an iPhone, an iPad, a Nintendo DS, and a PSP. Does anybody remember, do those names mean anything to people? So it's pretty normal stuff which people have at home. And I just thought I'll just show you the beginning of it, because this is the sort of stuff which can go on right here, right now, today, in the world today. So see what you think of this. She made it all herself. All of it, including the video. Sometimes you might find material. Has anybody ever found material which is interesting but you don't know what to do with it? When people say, Marcus, you should really start planning better, I say, well, look, you know, sometimes you can't plan for things. For example, if you're driving down a highway, you may not be able to plan for this. Okay, so your sense of humor consists of people dropping into life. Sometimes you might find yourself saying to kids, don't play on railways. Do you ever do this? Don't do things which are dangerous. For example, don't do something like this. I think we know what's going to happen next. but so does he. So it's okay. However, unfortunately, other things happen, you know. Sometimes, has anybody found technology to be amazing these days? Amazing. I don't know if you've seen what you can do with technology. See what you think of this one.
Hello, Laura. Love, what are you doing there then?
I'm burying my goldfish.
Oh dear, what a shame. Still, it's only a goldfish, I suppose, isn't it? But why are you digging such a big hole, you silly thing?
Because it's inside your cat.
Not so funny. So what I thought I would do in that case is to move straight on. I have sort of had a go at preparing something. But listen, at any time we can just deviate into the rest of this stuff. Just by way of interest, I've brought about 55,000 images on this computer, about 200 hours of video material, and in my bag I've got another terabyte of material, so there's enough. More than enough. So that's me. I run a small company. This is it in total. We call Bryanston Square, and we do a few bits and pieces. We work with teachers, we work with kids, we do programs with adults. We do work in our country with stuff. Actually, anything to improve people's life chances. But we use a slightly different model in that we don't go in and do stuff for people. We go in, we just show them what's possible. We might pilot a bit of stuff and clear off. You know, so we don't set up a dependency culture. Have you ever found that sometimes there are programs, you think, what a great program, and what a shame it's finished. Or wasn't it good? Do you remember in 1992 when we did that thing? Wasn't it good? So we try to make everything sustainable. For those of you who were at TEDx yesterday, or day before yesterday, you know, sometimes we talk about education, but we forget what it's about. We forget it's about him. His name is Alistair. At this moment, he's 5 months old. His whole future is ahead of him. And at some point, his mother, bearing in mind that Alistair is the most important thing in her life, his mother is going to ask professionals to help him grow and learn and be a contributor to society. And we call that education. But it's not education, is it? It's actually growing people. And forgetting about results and forgetting about statistics, is there anything more important than building the future generation? Honestly, is there anything more important? And I find it surprising when teachers have a slightly lower esteem, because I don't think there is anything more important. So let's have a look now at education. And if we were sitting in this room, I would probably say to you, when you were at school, what were your dreams? And probably, what are they now? So if we were to meet in 1 year's time, because we're never going to meet again. This group of people will never, ever meet again. We might meet in little subsets, but as a group we won't. So were we to meet in 1 year, what is it that we're going to say, what a fantastic year? Has anyone here ever found that there comes a moment and you go, yes, I'm definitely going to do that tomorrow? And then tomorrow comes, and you think, well, yesterday I thought I was going to do it today, but now I've reevaluated and I've reappraised, and I'm going to do it on Monday. And then Monday comes, you go, you know, it's Monday, but it's not the beginning of the month. And I like doing new things at the beginning of the month. Have you ever found that? And then after a year, you go, what has happened? So what were the dreams? And that's about you. And the funny thing about us, and if we look at education, it's not just what you know anymore, is it? It's not just what you know. It's also who you know. And even more important than who you know is how you know them. You know, there's a strong argument to say that if you know 1,000 people and they all think you're an idiot, it's better not to know anybody. Has anyone here ever been at a cocktail party or at a restaurant and you look and you go, oh, shit, it's that person? That sort of thing happens. Sometimes, with teachers, if they're in a shop and they see one of their students, they go, oh my God, one of my students, run away. That sometimes happens. And you know, the strange thing about it, this history follows you around. This child, this kid, will always be known as the guy who stuck his head through the hole in the plastic chair. Can you imagine? When he goes from this school to the next school, people say, oh, hey, I've heard about you. You're the guy who stuck your head in the plastic chair, aren't you? No, not me. It's my brother. He looks very similar. And you know, people do silly things. This is in our country. I'm not convinced that this bunch of professionals who approved and authorised this roadside realised it's not very secret anymore. It might have been, and maybe you try to hide it by using a different colour, but it's just not that secret. Other times you may find that you're with colleagues, and you can see that they're doomed to failure, but when do I tell them? Has anyone else ever found that situation? You go, I don't think that'll work. You go, hey, what do you think? I think it's great. You know? And then at the end you go, oh. So people do this. This is in our country. In my country, we have something called the Health and Safety Executive. Now, the Health and Safety Executive is in charge of making sure that nobody has an accident. And so they have a directive that if there are any pathways, you have to sign it. And so I took that picture, and I went back, and I said, what is that about? They said, oh, yeah, this is quite complicated, because we used to put the destinations of the footpaths. I said, and? They said, but people kept on rearranging them, so rather than direct people to the wrong places, we thought we'd just remove the destinations. I said, okay, I understand. Why the camera? I said, in case people rearrange it, we want to see them on camera. I said, how could you rearrange it and make any difference at all when it doesn't say where they're going? And you will find that people do this in real life. So in this room, all of us sitting here have got some history. Some of you say, I'm a finance person. Some of you might be saying, I'm a teacher. Some of you say, I'm an art teacher, don't ask me about numbers. Ooh, I just do art. Some of the notes have got very pretty pictures. I like collecting tens. And other people will be saying words like, yes, I'm a lawyer, I have to look like a lawyer at all times. Because lawyers are professional. We might be bastards, but we're also professional bastards. Is anybody here a lawyer? Obviously not bastards, you've got mothers and fathers and all the rest of it. But some lawyers do a very good job of pretending they don't. So we get caught in history. Some of you might even know some kids who got history at the age of 4 or 5. Some teachers sometimes think, oh my goodness, I know that child. That child's a difficult one. And they've got history. They're 3 and they've got history. And sometimes we don't think, what's the destiny? You know, in this room, we're each doing the job we're currently doing. We don't know what we're going to end up by doing. You know, as the world continues. So that becomes quite an interesting thing. So when I talked to Alistair's mother, and I said, what do you hope he'll become? What do you hope for Alistair? What words do you think she used? What do you hope Alistair will be? Successful. She didn't actually say that. She said, I really hope he's going to be happy. And when I said, do you mean happy? She said, I mean more than happy, you know. I mean, I want him to be comfortable with the decisions he's taking in life. I want him to be at ease with it, you know. I mean, in this room, if we just said what makes success, some of you say, I want to earn a lot of money. Some of you might say, I just want to have a lovely family. Some of you might like to have a child. Some of you might say, I would like to find someone who can be my life partner. Other people might say, I'd like to be able to drive fast, I'd like to travel. We all have different measures. You know? And that's a funny thing when we start comparing measures. Have you noticed occasionally you start not measuring yourself, but you're measuring yourself against someone else, and then you feel dissatisfied. It's like in a company. If there are 2 people working alongside each other, and one is paid 1 cent more than the other, suddenly they're unhappy. It's a strange thing, so it becomes relevant. And she said, I want to be considerate and kind and resourceful and inquisitive. Because if he is considerate and kind and resourceful and inquisitive, he will be healthy. But above all, I want him to be hopeful. Has anyone met students, kids, who are not hopeful anymore? What do we have? We have just over 50% of under 25s in Spain unemployed. Just imagine going for an interview. What have you been doing for the last 4 years? Have you been unemployed? Oh, great. So you're a professional unemployed. No, I volunteered for this one. Do you sort of see? It's a really strange thing, a really strange thing. And when I do this around the world, and I say, what are you hoping for kids? Everybody uses the same words. This is in the north of England, this is in around the corner in Latvia, this is in Morocco. Interestingly, in Morocco, they drew a girl. Because they said it's women who are going to sort us out. They've got very big hands and feet, as you can see, but never mind. But that becomes important. So I thought I'd show 2 lessons and the way they work. Because in our country we get trained in school to deliver lessons where we sort of say, this is what we're going to do, then we do it, and then we tell you what you've done. So it's 3 parts. Does anyone else have this sort of thing? So in our country we have been trying to train people quite hard, give lessons on not getting into a metal box, driving at high speed, and then not being restrained so you get thrown out of the box. That's wearing a seatbelt. Government has been doing it in lessons called advertisements. Do you have these government type advertisements to tell you to do things, which is like training? No? I'll show you the sort of the standard. Let's dissect this as if it was a lesson. What's it trying to achieve? As if it was a lesson. See what you think of this one. I hope it works.
You can put almost any frail object in a box, and provided it's held firm, you can shake it about no end. But if it's loose in the box, that's another matter. A car is a box on wheels, but a box just the same, and it can still get shaken about. And if you're in it and not wearing a seatbelt, you're in trouble because you're a loose object. It doesn't matter who you are or what you are, you can be the world's most experienced driver, but to the law of gravity, you're the world's most experienced loose object. And it can be very unfunny. Now, an egg hasn't got much in the way of brains, but you have. Wear a seatbelt. And if the box gets shaken up, you stand every chance of not getting broken. No matter how short the journey, nag yourself to remember this drill. Clunk the car door, and click the seatbelt. Clunk, click, every trip.
So, as a lesson, what was it? How did they do it? They sort of said, wear a seatbelt, egg, box. I think we knew what was going to happen with the egg in the box. Show a car crashing, show the egg, crash, 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 crash. Open the egg, out it comes. That's what will happen to you. You'll become mush. Wear a seatbelt, and then the reminding thing, clunk, click, every trip. How effective do you think that was? Not bad? Was it aimed at head or heart? I'll show you a different one. This was made by some students with a very small advertising agency. See what you think of this. find that one a bit emotional? So you want to go, whoa, what's happened there in that 1 minute and 12 seconds? My goodness. Which do you think is more effective?
Second.
Now, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Who thinks the first one was effective? And who thinks the second one was effective? Okay, so more people went for the second. But if you think about the second one, how many car crashes will be shown? How many illustrations were there of what happens if you don't wear a seatbelt to your body? All that stuff. Not one. Just imagine being in the advertising agency for that one. And what you say is, I think what we're going to do is we're going to make an advertisement about wearing a seatbelt. I'm going to put it in someone's room. There's going to be a guy. He's going to be a bit of a funny face. He's going to have no shoes. There are going to be two women. One could be his wife. One could be his daughter. They'll be sitting around the place. And then I'm going to explode the coffee table, and people are going, my goodness, how emotional is that? How many people would think, you're insane? You want to do an accident, a car, wearing a seatbelt? Where's the CGI? Where's the crash? And yet we thought it was more effective. I wonder if lessons in school should focus on the detail, where a seatbelt is a crash, or focus on the emotion of what will I do afterwards. And that becomes quite interesting. Because in a lot of cases in school what we try to do is I try to teach you. But if I teach you, who decides whether or not to learn? So is it more important that I teach, or more important that I help you learn? Yeah, and isn't that bloody hard? Because each one of us will do it slightly differently. So where can that go? And I think that's a difference between leadership and managership. I think a lot of us get caught up in managing classes, and managing lessons, and managing schools. And actually what we might want to do is to be able to grow the environment where PCT comes out. Now in our country, I am working with about 500 schools. Every one where we say, let's focus on something slightly other than delivering the task of the lesson, does better. Everyone. Because for how many hours do we have kids in school? Maybe 7 hours a day. How many hours are they not in school? The other 17. So do you want kids to go home and not continue, or do you want kids to go home and do stuff? And that becomes quite powerful. So we have to investigate and inquire. Or we might have to really look at things. So if you just take society, and you say, do you want positive or negative people? Where would it be? Positive. And do you want people to play an active or a passive role in society? Active. So what do we want in schools? And that becomes interesting, doesn't it? Because in schools we probably want positive, passive people. How do you like to do something? Shall we do this? And they go, yeah. Fantastic. Because if they're passive in negative, they're indifferent. Have you ever found that? You talk to people, let's do this. And they go, yeah, okay. Maybe. Because negative active people reject things. Right, kids, we're going to do this. And they go, no, I'm not going to do that. I know in this room, I prefer the top right to the bottom right. And over on the left, positive active people are independent. And the hard bit about dealing with those kids is how on earth do I work out whether what they've done is any good or not. So I'll show you an example. A friend of mine called John. Isn't that ridiculous? You're looking at me too hard. John Jones sent me this picture. He said, I was working with some teachers, and they started going independent. And one teacher in primary school was working with his kids to give a graduation ceremony when the kids leave primary school to go to bigger school. And they're going to make some presents for their parents to show everything which they've learned in their school. He said, you wouldn't believe what they've done, because I thought I should tell them what to do, and they decided to do it themselves, and they decided to grow potted plants. And the potted plants they grew were these. And that's the trouble when you've got independent kids. So if we just take a really pathetic analysis of oak trees being grown out of acorns, and you analyse it, you will find, in general, that there's as much going on below the tree as there is above the tree. And if you look at education, we start teaching maths and history and science and geography, language and economics, and if you do well, I'll give you some certificates. Do you have this sort of thing in your country? So I fill it up with certificates. Underneath is the at ease and considerate and kind, and the resourceful and inquisitive and healthy and hopeful. But I don't know how to test those. Those are below the line. Does anybody know some kids who are just brilliant, but it won't come out in their results? It's hard, isn't it? It's really, really hard. And in our country, teachers are going through amazing stress in trying to say that these kids are clever, it's just the measures which we're using don't judge the measurement. The trouble is, if you take that stuff away, this becomes a really, really, really unhealthy tree. And that's the one which I buy when I go to a garden shop to buy something to plant. It looks great, I plant it, it dies. Because the one to buy looks shitty, but it has big roots. But I don't want to buy that, because all my friends will say, why did you buy that stick? The trouble is, when we forget all this sort of stuff, we end up with people saying, I don't have much hope. Because it's the stuff underneath. I'm guessing in this room, what keeps us going is the ability to learn quickly. I have to pick something up fast. Does anybody else find that? Some of you might have to sort of do things in an impossible time frame. Where do we teach that? So it becomes tricky, doesn't it? So let's have a look at what we can do. Well, the funny other thing about it is in the world, you can say, are you supported, or do you have to make decisions on your own, in general? Is it very easy to get advice about anything, honestly? It's quite hard in some cases. And is the world complex, or is it easy? And then say, where do we spend our time? Me, I spend my time up in that sort of top corner of complex. I'm on my own. In a lot of schools, what we do is we teach down at the bottom. We make it fairly simple. We control the lesson. We know what the outcomes are. We give the task to the kids, and we assess it. Because actually, if we made it really complicated, that would be very time-consuming. I just don't have time to do that. On the other hand, if the kids already know it, so all I have to do is to let them get on with it, the students may say, well, what's your job? And as a teacher, I go, I'm supposed to teach, but they already know it. So I'll teach it again. In our country, I go to some lessons, there might be a language lesson, and there's a kid there from the same country who's got brilliant language, better than the teacher, and is sitting there still being taught. And I say, why don't you let the kid teach it? Don't be ridiculous, I'm the teacher. Pixie Tea. Was that a nice piece of music or not a nice piece of music? That Chinese girl. Was that good or bad? It was good. It was good enough for 8 million people to buy it. But how do you assess it in school? How on earth do you assess it? Probably the person who has got the most ability in understanding trajectory, if we take physics, trajectory. You know, trajectory of a sphere. A sphere is a difficult thing to plot for trajectory, especially in the air, because the air has different consistencies. You might have wind. And the person I know who is really good at being able to plot the trajectory of a sphere by kicking it using a boot, which is not a straightforward object, but also has a compression when kicking the ball, is David Beckham. But I bet if you asked him, how did you plot the trajectory? Show me your workings, show me your result. He'd probably say, I don't know, man, I'll just kick it. I can't do it. And I ask physics teachers who are really good at plotting trajectory, you go plot this trajectory from here to there. They can't do it either. And then we say, David Beckham is stupid. He's not. I don't know how to measure it. Do you sort of see the direction of travel? And that becomes quite powerful. Because then, in our case, I sort of asked the question, if a student brought in a leaf to your school, I mean a leaf, you know a leaf grows on a tree? And they brought a leaf in. What happens next? Does somebody say, why did you bring the leaf in? Did you want to go to the gallery and drop the leaf and record it fast on the camera going down so that you can then take the background out and put New York City and then compose a bit of music and put it up on YouTube tonight? Is that why you brought the leaf in? Or did you bring the leaf because you want to put it over there and have a camera focusing on it for 3 months so you can see the leaf getting smaller? Did you bring it in because you want to shine a laser through it and see how that diffracts? Did you bring it because you wanted to weigh it? Did you want to eat it? Or do we say, that leaf does not belong in this school, take it away? Or maybe, I don't think you understand, we don't do leaves until next year. So the real question is, how do we do some of this stuff? Here's an interesting one. A furniture company called Herman Miller. They're a furniture company called Herman Miller. Went out to a competition to ask high school students in the United States, how do kids learn and where do they learn? Do you understand that sort of thing? And the first time they went out, no more than 10,000 words. As a competition, we'll give you a prize, $5,000 US as a prize. I'll show you the winning result. No more than 10,000 words.
I don't wanna have to study in a coffee shop, listening to people talk to blah blah blah. If I try to focus there, all my grades will drop. All the noises and laughing just make it stop. And I can't really focus at the library. It's a little too quiet for a guy like me. Just a little bit of noise and some personality can make a study room perfect for me. That's why I study in my bedroom. I got my lights set right into for the moon. With my number 2 pencils, quite a few pens, black my door shut out my friends, and I stay in my bedroom. Because my room is perfect, a tiny little space where I don't have people all up in my face. I got a nice desk where I like to sit and just crunch some numbers for a bit. And my computer's right here if I need the net, because what college kid hasn't utilized it yet? And if I need to take a break, I can lounge on my bed and let the stress flow from my head. Because I want to get good grades. Yeah, I like to get straight A's. I don't want my knowledge to fade, so I can end up getting paid. That's why I study in my bedroom. I got my lights set right into for the moon. With my number 10 pencils, quite a few pens, lock my door, shut out my friends, and I study in my bedroom. Study in my bedroom. I got my lights set right into for the moon. Oh, with my number 2 pencils.
You get the idea? Now, if you were Herman Miller, who would you recruit? Guy puts in 9,000 words? Or that guy? He's got to see. So how do we enable this to happen? How do we create the environment where young people can generally do this? So what are we preparing people for? And in our country we have a big thing. Am I preparing people to get a job? Do we talk about employability? Or do we talk about being able to create an income for yourself? And that becomes really tough. Because if I say we're preparing kids to get employed, then you've got to be able to have a CV with grades which people understand. On the other hand, if I'm trying to prepare you to be able to create an income, then you need to work it out yourself. You need to be quite creative. You might need to start doing some things. Oh my goodness. However, 50% of under 25s in Spain are unemployed. So what happens if there aren't employers? We start looking for jobs. Don't tell me there aren't things to do in society. I mean, just don't tell me that. Don't tell me there are roles to be fulfilled. So that becomes quite an interesting thing about what we want to do for our kids. And if you go back, right the way back to 2007, and you have a look at the PISA results, and a lot of people look at PISA as being a contributor to how different countries have succeeded. Right at the back was a lovely piece of analysis in the appendix of PISA 2007. And the appendix was looking at job roles in the United States. Identified 5 roles. Routine cognitive tasks, which is highly skilled labor. We need accountants, lawyers, doctors, we don't need philosophers, but we need accountants, lawyers, doctors, and this sort of stuff. And then we also need routine manual people. They work in factories, and they're really good at it, they're manual. We also have non-routine analytic, that's solving problems involving data, non-routine interactive, solving problems involving people, and just non-routine manual. People can solve things, fix things. Has anybody here wished we had more people who could fix things? I put my car in, if it goes wrong, to a garage, they plug a diagnostic tool in, and they say, you need a new part. I say, what's the part? And they say, an engine. I say, is it a part? No, it's an engine. It's one part. It's part number 3. And when we start off, obviously there are different numbers of people engaged in all of these things, but if we started off with an all-relative place in 1960, what we found is that from the 60s to the 70s, we needed more skilled labour. We have to train people. We need to go to university to do this stuff. It's really important. The non-routine stuff isn't so important, you know? But have a look at what's happened to jobs since then. All the routine stuff is gone. Because if you're going to automate something, are you going to automate something routine or non-routine? Well, obviously routine. And are you going to automate something involving expensive people or cheap people? Expensive people. I wonder how many great bookkeepers there are who are unemployed because we use QuickBooks. I wonder how many fantastic people who are so good at cutting 70mm film to make it into movies are unemployed because we do it on Windows Movie Maker. I wonder how many amazing typesetters they were who could create a piece of type out of a piece of metal, put it upside down, who were replaced with Microsoft Word. I wonder how many translators are losing their jobs because of Google and Babelfish. How long do you think it's going to be before you speak into a phone in one language and it comes out in the other language? How long? 6 months? And it's going to come from an app, and the app is going to cost how much? 99 cents. Wow. Whole industry. Has anybody ever found an extraordinary thing about I can go onto Google Maps, I can move that person onto a street, and I can see everything about the area? How many people did there used to be who'd go out and take photographs and send them around the place? Gone. So that's what's happening. The biggest growth is in people who can do things which are non-routine. But how the hell do we train people in schools in non-routine? And actually, here it is, in black and white. This highlights a concern that if students learn merely to memorize and reproduce knowledge and skills, they risk being prepared only for jobs that are in fact increasingly disappearing from labour markets. In other words, the kind of skills that are easy to teach and easy to test are no longer sufficient to prepare young people for the future. And we know it, don't we? So how do we make that work? I don't think I can do a lesson plan on it. I think I have to create an environment and the emotion to get people to want to do it. I think we have to work out, how do I test that Fix-CT is brilliant? And in a school, you may find that some kids are better than the teachers at certain things. So where can we go from all of that? Well, then we can start looking at opportunities for Alistair. What is the world ahead of him? It could be amazing. He can choose which cities in the world to live in. There are 500 cities of more than 1 million people. 3,200 cities of over 100,000 people. Where would Alistair like to start living? Would he like to spend 1 year in Sydney learning how to be a chiropractor, then a couple of years in Kuala Lumpur, and then maybe he wants to go to Rwanda to open a children's village, and then come back to Vilnius? Maybe that's the way it's going to be, to get a whole stack of stuff. And in 10 years' time, he may not be a chiropractor. He may be doing something which we don't know what it is yet, because we haven't invented it. So what is the purpose of school, and what makes a good school? And that becomes quite interesting. So when we start looking at our customers in schools, what do we see? This is Bert Meyer. I don't know if you've seen him. He appeared on TEDx at Manhattan Beach, and he's had 400,000 views on him as an 11-year-old talking about the trouble with food. As an 11-year-old, talking to an audience of 800 people. I had no idea he could do that in my school if he's in a class of 30. I wouldn't know. 2007, it was only 5 years ago, Apple launched the iPhone. It was only 5 years ago. Can you believe a world before the iPhone, or before the BlackBerry, or before some of the apps, where the phone could only do what the guys at Nokia thought you'd want? So you get a little game where, if you press the right buttons, you can pretend to be chasing a tail of an object going across the screen. And if you use the right combinations, you get a torch to shine, but then you don't know the combinations to get it to turn off. By doing analysis of reading about all the apps and then choosing which one is appropriate. Because we can't. What we can do, as we probably do, is we speak to a friend in an odd moment, they say, have you seen this? We go, wow, isn't that fantastic? And it's not a complicated capital projects decision, because it's 99 cents. And if it's no good, delete. Have you noticed? That's what's happening today with 505,000 apps. It's now 590,000 apps. I guess it's going to be 1 million apps next year. That's why we have an iPad, to fit more on. You can just see we're going to have some sort of scrolling iPad which will come out here, have the selection of apps. And that's just without us even noticing. And then if you have a look at how many people are writing apps, 1.6 million. So if you've got a school and it's still working through a 5-year plan, we've forgotten all about the apps. All of that's got missed. So actually, what do we need? The creativity, and you know, I don't know about you, but I don't care if an app is written by a young kid or an old kid. I don't care if they're blue or black, and I don't care where they live. That's not been possible before. Because before you have to get a job. Just imagine a 13-year-old comes, hello, I'd like to get a job, I'm a really good programmer. Clear off, once you go back to school, you've got a grade. Have you got grades? I don't have any grades yet. I can't get grades until I'm 16. Can you imagine that sort of world? I mean, it is sort of like a nonsense, isn't it? I mean, it really is a nonsense. This kid came up with a way, he's got fed up with trying to précis essays, so he wrote an app to be able to scan an essay in, and it compresses it. It's quite neat, isn't it? Yeah, I have one of those. That was 99 cents. So we can then analyse and say, what are we preparing for? And all this sort of stuff. And that becomes supremely powerful when we actually look at this, in general, in our school. So I'll show you some things. Here are some kids, 9-year-old kids, give them an iPod Touch. Don't give them any training. Someone go and make a movie. And what we found is then they go and find that there's a university where they've got a media centre, so they go and find out how to get trained in doing a 1-camera shoot and a 2-camera shoot and a 3-camera shoot. And then what they did is they got in touch with decent equipment and they made a movie and they showed it at the local cinema. The teacher didn't have any idea about this at all. He said, oh, what we're going to do, we're going to have a little task, we're going to give the kids, 8-year-old kids, who've got no training at all, we're going to give them an iPod Touch and they're going to make a movie, show it at the local cinema. The teacher goes, whoa, it's going to take me 2 years to prepare that. I'm going to have to make like 25 lessons. The kids did it in 1 week. So how do we get this stuff coming out? By the way, do you think they were graded for that? No, because I don't have an examination called go off and make a movie without having any training, make it in 1 week and show it at the local cinema. 3 marks. You know, I don't have that. So it's becoming quite difficult for us. And then look, I mean, do you think they're hopeful? But then what might happen? And I won't show it to you. I showed it a little bit yesterday, on the day before yesterday at TED. But it's up on the web. And you know the other thing is that it's mistakes which make us, isn't it? Have you noticed? The more mistakes we make, the better we learn. At school, is it good to make a mistake or bad? Oh, that's a bit of a nuisance, isn't it? So what is a construct we have at schools? So if you take it right back to the basic analysis, so we take kids, remove them from society. We'll put them in an enclave called a school. We will divide them up based on when they were born. I have a lovely debate in our country. In our country, the cut-off date is August the 28th. So if you're born on August the 29th, you go into 1 year. If you're born on August the 28th, you go into a different one. But if you're born prematurely, so you're born 2 days before you should have been born, you go into the year in which you were born, and not the year in which you should have been born. So even this bit of stuff is a bit strange. And then we subdivide them into small groups of about 25. We allocate them to teachers, quite often allocated on a basis of Excel, not because they choose teachers and they do anything like that, they're just allocated on Excel. And we put them into a cubicle. 30 kids, 1 teacher. But we put them all like that, so all the teachers are in cubicles. So you take really clever, really talented people who want to be teachers, and we stick them in a cubicle with 30 kids. And actually, they find it quite difficult going to somebody else's cubicle to sit in, because it's called observation, and why are you doing that? And whoa, this is my kingdom, not your kingdom. You stay out of your kingdom. I'm in my cubicle, you're in yours. And then after about 4 or 5 years, we promote them, and we say, I want you to look after other people in their cubicles. I mean, when you think about it, it's all a bit strange, isn't it? And then we set tests based on a range of objectives, we allocate the grades, and we launch them into society. Where else would you sit with people doing a project of exactly the same age as you? And how much would you learn? We learn by making mistakes with each other vertically. So why don't we have vertical settings? And that becomes really interesting. So in our country, what we have is we have a model which focuses on what you can't do. And we try to correct it. As opposed to accelerating what you can do. That's strange, isn't it? We tend to require compliance. Sit down, pay attention, face the front, do this, do that, bell goes, move to the next lesson. I haven't finished yet, go! Did anybody remember being at school not having time to finish? You know? And if you're a teacher, and you know, oh my God, we've got 30 seconds before the bell, 20 seconds before the bell, go gone. It's a nonsense, really, isn't it? A lot of students at school might do time. Do you know what I mean by doing time? They're neither great nor bad, they're just there. Does anybody else remember being in a lesson just being there? When the teacher goes, da 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 da, you just do. It happens. What else happens in our country? In some cases, because we have got so absolutely keen on making sure that we test kids, some teachers feel that they have to teach kids how to pass the test. And we get teachers who are really, really concerned. I really want these kids to understand the joy of mathematics and the way in which we can solve problems, but I dare not because they're going to get tested. And I have to give them the tools to pass the test. Isn't that awful waste? So we get coming up with all those certificates and all those nice things, but nothing underneath, potentially. So what can we do there? We can't grade the great, can we? We don't know how to. We don't know how to grade someone who is numerically brilliant. I find it fascinating that there are some people, I give them 30 or 40 words, they can arrange them in such a way as I cry. Most wonderful poetry, the most wonderful lyrics, and I cry. And I can't get them to describe how do they do it step by step so I can grade the process they use. Because they are just brilliant. How do we grade brilliance? How many kids are in our schools who are brilliant? I mean, brilliant. Does anybody know some people from school days who were just fantastic, but it may not have come out in their grades? Does anybody know some people who weren't very good, and some have got really good grades? So where can we go? What makes a good school? So a good school is probably going to change things around a little bit, and allow kids to be in that area which is unpredictable and really difficult to assess, like the Herman Miller stuff, like Pixie Tea, like the kid who comes within a leaf and drops it, and composes a beautiful piece of music, publishes it on YouTube, and does a few more. Just brilliant. So what does a good school look like? It's probably a feeling, isn't it? It's probably a variety of different people learning wonderful things which they never thought was possible in different ways. And then maybe some kids. Have you anybody here got kids? And when they come home from school, they say, "How's school?" That's all right. What did you learn today? Nothing. What we learn tomorrow, same as today. Wouldn't it be lovely if kids came back and said, "You won't believe what I've done. I brought this tree and I'm going to drop it from upstairs downstairs. I'm going to film it." You've been to that school again. You know, there's a little girl I spoke to who was 4 years old from her first day at school. You know, she got all dressed up, she was really good, and she came back and he said, "How did you find school?" She said, "I loved it, but I've done it now, so I don't need to do it again." I didn't have the heart to say 18 more years every single day. I didn't have the heart. So maybe we can get kids to be this. And not to know. And maybe parents can start finding out, "I had no idea our kids could do this. I had no idea my child could do this." Wouldn't that be wonderful? Wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? So maybe that's what we can do. So what if students chose their teachers? What if, at the beginning of each semester, a teacher came up, "I'm going to do mathematics. It's going to be cool, it's going to be great fun." And another one comes up, "I'm going to do mathematics, I'm going to make you work really, really, really hard." That's what it's going. "I'm going to do mathematics in an interesting way." Who would you choose? I think some of you would say, "I'm not very good at mathematics, I'm going to choose that one, because he's really, really, really strict." And somebody else like, actually I want to do mathematics, and this is and this one's so crazy, I'm going to tell her to study with me. So maybe it's not that hard. Maybe teachers should bring in more experts. Instead of spending ages to try and work out how to design a lesson about design, I will spend the same amount of time getting somebody in who's just brilliant at design. And we'll all be there and just share the joy of somebody's fantastic at it. Maybe we could do that. Why do we have these funny breaks? Has anybody ever found? Everybody goes on holiday at the same time. Why don't we just spread it out throughout the year? You go behind. You know, but in real life, have you ever gone on holiday and thought, shit, I better not go on holiday because my desk will be really high. And we work it out, don't we? So how do we train ourselves to work that out? Maybe we should be doing coaching. Really coaching. In that school where the kids made movies, guess who's now running classes on technology for teachers? The kids are. And why not? Because then a teacher can see what skills do the kids have, which otherwise I won't get. We might have to balance this scorecard. We might actually have to trust our teachers. We might have to say, you know your kids, we've got some grades, but tell me, is Johnny fabulous or not? Wouldn't that be neat? Instead of having all this stuff. And that becomes fantastic. So we've got to want to do it, and then we've got to understand our expectations. These are some kids in a school in South London who are running programs for teachers and for their parents. And the teachers are coaching them, and they're all learning. Isn't that great? And kids start discovering what they're capable of. Because it's never been done before, how many experts are there? And then you can start looking at facilities. For example, this place, north of England, it's a school, it's a temporary building. And they want their kids to really understand science, but it looks like this. And then we'll do science. And actually, because we've got good lights, we can have a look at lights. And because we've got nice sound, why don't we just have a great time? Wouldn't that be nice? So it's not impossible to do this sort of stuff. In a different place, 3 projectors, you put fish swimming around the room. And I have to tell you, I got a call from a parent. You won't believe it. We did this with 4-year-old girls and 4-year-old boys, and they came out of it, and we put a video called Finding Nemo. Have you seen Finding Nemo? We were under the sea, and we could breathe. Oh, isn't that lovely? Can you imagine coming back from that experience at school and telling your parents? Well, maybe that's a great skill. Instead of doing dining like that, maybe we should do it like this. We can start working out what it is. Maybe we should just build little igloos made out of milk bottles and sit in there and just have little quiet meetings. Maybe we can do that. It doesn't have to be too difficult. And then you can say, is this the best or not? So let's have a look at some experiences. Which of the central circle is bigger? Come on, ladies and gentlemen. So who thinks it's the left? Who thinks it's the left? Okay. Who thinks it's the right? What about the rest of you? Equal. Come on. Who thinks it's the left? A few of you. Who thinks it's the right? Who thinks they're the same? Yeah, well, you're wrong. What happened there? Is that because you thought? I know this one. They're the same. I know this. Yeah. Okay, which one's bigger? Left or right?
Left.
Oh shit, this is really hard now. Okay, so who thinks it's the one on the left? Who thinks it's the one on the right? Who thinks they're the same size? Not so many of you now, are there? Well, you're all wrong. So the trouble is we get trained in this stuff, we start believing it. How many legs has the elephant got? Yeah? And you can do all sorts of things. Have you seen this one? Anybody here a mathematician? So mathematicians, you know there's Pascal's triangle running here, right? So if n is 2, it's a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. If n is 3, it's a cubed plus 2a squared b plus, hang on, 1, 2, 1, isn't it? So it's 2a squared b plus 2b squared a plus b cubed. Yes? And if b is 4, it's a to the 4th plus 4 A Q B squared. Doesn't matter, does it? Anyway, this is where I can expand it. I can do a bit more if you like. Actually, I can do a lot of this. How many of you want me to do, you know? That's fascinating really when you start seeing it. So we've really got to look at it, it's really good. And we've got to believe. Right, ladies and gentlemen. How many of you have got pencils? Does anybody not have a pencil? So if you don't have a pencil, I've got just a few more. Somewhere. Who hasn't? Put your hand up if you don't have a pencil. Oh, shit. There. 2, 3 there. Can you borrow one? Has anyone got a spare pencil? That was the right question to ask. Has anybody here got a spare pencil to lend to someone who doesn't have one? Has everybody no pencil? It's got to be a pencil. It's got to be a wooden pencil. Has everybody got a pencil? No, you don't need to write with it. It can be blunt. It can be blunt. It can be a rubbish pencil. It should be reasonable length. Oh, you've broken it already. I'm going to confiscate this pencil and I'm going to give you a hold. No, we've got to keep them whole. Don't break it. It was good creativity, and I'm sorry I'm being too creative. No, that was good. Thank you. It was, yeah. Thank you. And thank you. Okay. Still got a pencil. Right, in a moment, has anybody not? You and a pencil for you. Oh, yes. Fantastic. Pencil. Pencil. Has everybody got a pencil? Pencil. They're all coming out now. Pencil, pencil, pencil. Pencils, anybody? Pencil, pencil. Oh, sure. Pencil, 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 pencil. Pencils, everybody got a pencil, right. There's a pencil down there. And we pass the very last pencil down there. Okay, for a moment, we're going to try something. May I borrow your pencil just for a moment? In a moment, I would like us to see if we can break them, but no, not yet. With one finger. So to do this, you've got to pay attention. It's important. So one of you holds the pencil. Their pencil, not yours. So you hold the pencil. And the other person breaks it with one finger, like this. That's all you have to do. Just break it. Okay? That's all you have to do. Yeah, you can all do it. Just break it with one finger. Now there is a technique. There's a technique, ladies and gentlemen, because what a lot of people do when aiming at the pencil is they aim at the pencil. If you aim at the pencil, you probably won't break it. It's quite hard. You might break your finger. I accept no responsibility for any injury, however ever caused by anything which happens in this room. Ever. At all. So what you should do with your finger is you should aim about here. So if you're holding your pencil out and the person's hitting it, you shouldn't aim at the pencil. You should aim about there. So you go like that. Okay. Right? Go like that. So you've got to hold it pretty strong. And I would hold it at both ends in case they break your hand off. Is that okay? So why don't you just try it? So give yourself enough space, hold it out, and just go like that. Hard. Hard. In the middle, but aim below the pencil. Okay. You may need to stand up, ladies and gentlemen. Have you got an iPod? So there is something about, do I really believe this is possible? Our brains are peculiar creatures, you know? Our brains are electrical impulses being sent around the place, that's all it is. If you've hurt yourself, it's because you didn't go hard enough. It's a peculiar thing, it's all in the mindset. Ladies and gentlemen, it's all in the mindset. So our brains are really strange things. Shall we try one last experiment? This is an easier one. Okay, it's an easier one. Just, if you're sitting down, just make sure you're sitting down in a comfortable way, in which your body is reasonably well placed. And so if I ask you to do something a couple of times, your body will stay in the same position. Okay? So here we go. The test is this is a reference test to see if something we do is going to make any difference. Okay? So the reference test. What I'd like you to do is to turn your head round, either in a moment, either to the left or the right, whichever way you like, and see how far you can get, just by focusing your eye on how far you can go. So if I was doing it now, if I'll turn my head to the left, I'll turn it around, as far as I can go, I can get to a cell about that sharp cell. That's how far as I can see. I'm going to keep my body in exactly the same place. So if I do it again, I know exactly how far I could go. Is that all right? So give yourself a reference, turn your head to the left or right, doesn't matter which, and see how far you can go. And just focus on whatever you see. Just to the left or the right, just see how far you get. Okay, you all done it? You all focused on it? Okay. Now, if you're with me, close your eyes. Don't worry, I'm not going to do anything. And now, in your mind, and your mind only, imagine that your neck is made entirely out of rubber. And so in your mind, and your mind only, turn your head around in the same direction as it went. And in your mind, and your mind only, keep going. And in your mind, and your mind only, keep going all the way till your head is supposed to face the opposite direction to your body. And in your mind, and your mind only, turn it all the way around, go a bit further, go around 360 degrees. And actually, you can just keep going. Flip, 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 go around 4 times. Now in your mind, and your mind only, unwind it until it's facing the front. Okay, now, when it's facing the front, open your eyes. And now repeat the exercise. Just turn your head around as far as it will go and see how far you get. Did anybody find you went further? No. Pathetic, isn't it? I mean, how ridiculous is it? It's just all in the mind. And these mindsets are really powerful. And we get used to doing things the way we've always done them. I'm just for the sake of argument, just fold your arms. Just fold your arms. Just fold your arms. Just fold them. Just fold them. And just for interest, just notice which hand goes above which. And just for fun, fold them the other way around. At this moment, is anybody annoyed? Anybody, Marcus, I don't like what you're doing to me. This is not how my arms work. But if you notice, we're all got them slightly different. Well, not all slightly different. We either go left over right or right over left. There are really not many other options. Some of you may try, but so that's the mindset. It's really powerful. And you can see this at work if you get on an escalator which is off. Has anybody ever walked up to an escalator which is off? You may find, whoa, this is really hard. And then you go down and you go, oh, this is really difficult. It's off. But I'm used to it. I'm too used to it. So what if we can create different types of schools? What if? Would that be worth going for? It's got to be, isn't it? It's got to be. So what do we want to prepare the young people for? Employment or income generation? A life where what I do is I fulfill somebody else's dreams, or a life where I work out my own. But ladies and gentlemen, if we're talking about what makes a good school, what makes a good school, it's probably something where you have a great feel. You'll probably find that kids will want to talk to teachers in a different way. You'll find that the dialogue will take place differently. And if you want to do absolute statistics, in our country, the percentage of organisations which recruit using standard recruitment techniques involving CVs and interviews is 0.1% of all the organisations in the United Kingdom, because we only have 6,000. And we only have 6,000 because of lots of mergers and acquisitions. On the other hand, if we look at small companies, we have 4 million. And small companies don't have recruitment departments. And small companies don't really care what you've done. What they care is what will you do. And how do we let kids know and show what they can do, because this is what I've done. Without being shown it, without being told how to do it, I've just done it. And I think, ladies and gentlemen, it is entirely possible that if we get more people to be able to handle non-routine, analytic, and non-routine interactive, we won't have such high unemployment amongst young people. What we may have is an amazing, thriving society. And I don't know what the grades will be. But every time we've done this in school, guess what happened to the grades? They've gone shooting up. Because in some cases in schools, we aim at the pencil. Do you know what I mean? We aim at the pencil. We get people to go through it, the grades become a bit silly. Guy in South Africa, I've got a movie of him, the average matriculation rate in South Africa in the township school is 2%. 100 kids come in, 2 come out. He set up a school. They said, I'm not going to worry about all this stuff. We're going to be creative, we're going to do all sorts of stuff. And he didn't recruit the brightest kids. He just recruited all the kids who couldn't get into a decent school. His matriculation rate in his first year was 92%. Because he didn't realise that the average rate was 2. Nobody told him. So he was really disappointed because he wanted 100. Have you ever gone somewhere and the target isn't really a target, it's based upon last year's, plus a percentage? So maybe we can rethink all of this. We say, is it a job or a role? Has anybody ever gone somewhere where people are doing their job, not enjoying it very much? Maybe we don't need that. So there you have it, place to go. In today's world, where we have more people living in cities than not living in cities, do you see we went through that one? Day before yesterday, I think. The world went through that. Where life expectancy for young people born in Northern Europe is expected to be about 130 to 140 years old. We need young people to create a new society, don't we? And I don't know if we can train them. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is really what I wanted to say. Is this the best or just the least bad? And if you want real evidence, find it. So where does that take us? It takes us into all sorts of things which exist in the world today which could be made better. It exists not in kids in classrooms copying stuff from the board, which itself has been copied from a book. Doesn't seem to make sense, does it? So look, I've been talking now for an hour and a half, and some of you probably be thinking, who the hell is this guy? What's it all about? So I will introduce myself to you. I'll do it quickly. I'm a bloke, about 55. I also don't know what I want to do with my life. I love doing what I'm doing, but I don't know if there's something more interesting. Anybody else feel like that? Yeah. So I'm always trying to discover new things. You don't know what you're good at unless you try everything. You've got to be careful about trying everything. I do have a CV. I was born in London, brought up between London and Paris. Took a degree in economics at the University of Bristol, became a chartered accountant, CPA. When I did that, I accidentally became, I joined another firm. I joined a firm called Ernst & Young after that, where accidentally I became director of recruitment. You do that, you get invited to boards of lots of educational charities that kept it all going. I then left, met a bunch of weirdos, and we thought, well, let's make London better. Have you ever met people and they say, why don't we do something about this? You know, after a while you might say, yeah, why don't we? We said, actually, why don't we? So we set up a company, became chairman of Home Control, director of Restaurant. Trouble with CVs, I guess they tell you nothing, so I'll try and make it a bit more interesting. When I was at university, I built and raced cars. When I was 24, I thought it'd be fun to buy a Ferrari, but you know you're going to get ripped off when you get it serviced, so I thought I'll buy the garage. In my time at Ernst & Young, I recruited about 30,000 people. In a spare time activity, I developed up 17 antique shops by accident. I didn't mean to. I bought the first. Actually, that was interesting. In a firm of business consultants, I bought an antique shop. And people said, what the hell have you done that for? I got carried away in an auction. That's how it happened. I went into an auction with an absolute budget of 10, and I paid 132. Because that person over there was trying to beat me. What an idiot. And so I wrote a business plan, and everybody said, no. I wrote, well, I'm an accountant. And they said, yeah, stay being an accountant. So I bought the antique shop, I got the money, and for 6 months we had stuff in the shop, and nobody bought anything until we sold a table out of the window. And the minute we sold the table, about 10 people came in and said, where's the table gone? And my friend said, we sold it. I went, no! I said, yeah, look, we're a shop, we sell things. You might not have realised it up till now, but we do. And they said, do you have any more? We said, no, it's an antique. We know that's the only one we've got. And we thought, I wonder how many people have been walking past looking to buy that table but nobody wanted to come in. So I had a conversation with my friends at Ernst & Young, business consultants, partners, advisors, international, financial experts. I said, I know there's here, you know, it's 10, 132. And I said, we sold, and we had it 6 months, didn't sell anything, then a table sold. And I said, you sold a table? I said, yeah, cut your losses, get out of this game. So we bought a second shop. And we moved stuff from the first shop to the second shop. And people came in, where's the check? We sold it. No, yes. Do you have any more? You might have one very similar. Move it back, sir. So that's all that happened. Then I built up, with some friends, we borrowed £7,000 million, what was that, 10,000 million euros, and created an area in London called Ludgate, built our software company, been involved in about 500 schools, met some wackos in Iceland, and we thought, let's get a TV show called Lazy Town onto UK television. I don't know if you have it over here. Kids show, lots of action, no violence. And I've discovered about me, I can start things off, but I'm no good at management and I'm too fat. And I'm too fat because I'm brilliant. So that's me. I do have a final bit of a CV if you're interested. My father's Russian, he's very violent. My mother was very small. She was born of French and Spanish parents. I was born in London. I was then brought up in Paris for the first 5 years in a violent home, a seriously violent home. I discovered why I wear spectacles. I wear spectacles because in a fight between my mother and my father picked me up and threw me out of the apartment. I landed very badly on my left side of my head, fractured my eye sockets, eye came out, and the usual sort of stuff. At the age of 5, there was a terrible fight between my mother and my father. Terrible fight. And I woke up, and my mother was on the ground, and my father was standing above her, kicking her and stamping on her. Got carted off to hospital with my mother. My father got carted off to the police, but he was very good at persuading the police it was a tragic family accident. So he got off. My grandmother rescued me from a hospital in Paris and took me to London. But I wasn't on her passport, and I was seized at immigration and taken into care. It took my grandmother 9 months to get me out of care. And that's how it then started. At about the age of 7, got my mother out of mental hospital in France. So I used to come home from school, find my mother, pick her up, clean her up, cook her something to eat, cook myself something to eat, wait till my grandmother got home. Repeat performance every single day. Every single day. If school holidays was much worse because I was on my own, the weekends was much easier because there were two of us. At the age of 14, I got myself a job on Saturdays because I persuaded a hi-fi company I could repair hi-fis, which obviously I couldn't. But I discovered if you open the back and you have a screwdriver, twiddle anything vaguely twiddleable, you get a 50-50 chance of it working, which was better than the engineers. Age of 16, I got recruited into running a shop. I became legitimate. I could work evenings, bank holidays, and all this sort of stuff. Paid my way through university by buying and selling cars. That's why I started racing. Age of 23, my grandmother had to give up work. Sorry, when I was 23 and she was 72, she had to give up work because her angina was so bad she could no longer walk to the train station. And she was really scared that she was going to get evicted from the flat she'd been renting. So what did I have to do? I had to buy it. And then when I was 24, I thought it would be fun to buy a Ferrari. Now, if you look at the statistics, I should have ended up in prison. If you look at kids, it doesn't matter what their history is. It's what is their destiny. That's all that matters. What is their destiny? So what can we do in schools? What would make a good school? What would make a great school? Conversations, humility, allowing people to develop, watching young people become better than us, making the world better, helping young people find a role. Is that worth working for? It has to be. So ladies and gentlemen, we started off by saying, what makes a good school? I don't know if I've answered the question. I don't know what makes a good school, but I can tell you what we will notice in good schools. It's for you to work out what can you do. So that's my work life. Outside of work, I've spent the last 20 years working with young people. I think it's really important. So I work with ISEC and ISTA and JCI and all these people. This year, those are the places I've been to talk to young people who nobody ever goes and talks to. So if we want to just do one thing, in this room, each one of us can help one young person, child by child, person by person. And then we'll create principles, right? It'll be an accident. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I really wanted to talk about. That's all I wanted to talk about. I hope that makes a bit of sense. So what can we achieve? Who knows? Could it be made better? Yes. Do we need to do it? I think so. And if you can break a pencil, you can change the world. Thank you very much.